The phone buzzed at 9:47 p.m. on a Thursday. I was in my home office in Denver, reviewing quarterly reports for my consulting firm. My daughter Emma was at her friend's house for a sleepover. The house was peaceful, filled with the kind of comfortable silence that comes from a life built on your own terms. The ringtone was a soft chime I had chosen specifically because it wouldn't startle me. Everything in my carefully constructed world was designed to be calm, controlled, predictable. The caller ID showed my sister's name, Rebecca. We hadn't spoken in 3 months, not since the awkwardness at Mom's birthday dinner. Before we continue, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from around the world. I almost didn't answer. Something about a call this late felt ominous, but family obligation, that stubborn thread that ties us to people who may not deserve it, made me swipe to accept. Claire. Rebecca's voice was sharp, businesslike. No greeting, no pleasantries. We need to talk. About what? I asked, though something cold was already settling in my stomach. About Dad's will. About the family business. About your situation. The way she said situation made it clear she wasn't talking about my successful consulting practice or my beautiful home. She was talking about Emma, my adopted daughter, my everything. What about it? My voice was steady, but my grip tightened on the phone. Look, Claire, we've all been talking. Mom, me, David, Uncle Frank. We think it's time you understood something. Dad left the family business to his children. His real children. His blood. The words hit me like ice water. 25 years of family dinners, holidays, shared memories, and she was drawing lines in the sand based on DNA. I am his child, Rebecca. I've been his daughter for 32 years. You know what I mean. Her voice was getting colder, more clinical. Adopted is adopted. And that little girl of yours? She's not really family either. She's not a walker. She never will be. My heart stopped. Emma. Sweet, brilliant, 8-year-old Emma who called my parents grandma and grandpa, who made them Father's Day cards and Christmas cookies. Emma, who was the light of all our lives, or so I had thought. Are you seriously suggesting Dash? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm telling you how it is. We've made a decision. The family business, Dad's legacy, that's for his real grandchildren. David's kids. My kids. Not some random child you picked up from God knows where. The venom in her voice was breathtaking. This was my sister, the woman I had shared a bedroom with growing up, who had been my maid of honor, who had held Emma as a baby and claimed to love her. Emma is my daughter, I said, my voice barely controlled. She's been part of this family since she was 6 months old. No, Claire. She's not. And neither are you. Not really. You want to know what we really think? Dad took pity on you. We all did. But pity doesn't make you family. Blood makes you family. And since neither of you have Walker blood, maybe it's time you stopped pretending you belong. The line went dead. I sat there in the silence of my office, staring at the phone. The neat stacks of papers on my desk, the framed photo of Emma and me at Disneyland, the certificates on the wall documenting my professional success. Everything looked the same, but something fundamental had shifted. They had just told me I didn't belong. More importantly, they had told me Emma didn't belong. And that was unforgivable. My phone buzzed with a text message. Rebecca again. Family meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. Mom's house. Don't bring the kid. I stared at that message for a long time. Don't bring the kid. Emma wasn't even worthy of her name anymore. She was just the kid. An inconvenience. An outsider. Something inside me, something that had been building for years, crystallized into diamond-hard resolve. They thought they were having a family meeting to exclude us. They had no idea what they had just started. The next morning, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to my attorney, Marcus Chun. We had worked together for years, and he knew my family's complicated dynamics. Marcus, I need you to pull together every document related to my father's estate, the family business structure, and any agreements I've signed over the years. Is everything all right, Claire? His voice was concerned. No, but it will be. How quickly can you get me a complete financial audit of Walker Industries? Give me 48 hours. The second call was to Emma's school. Hi, this is Claire Walker. Emma won't be in school today. Family matter. The third call was to my business partner, Sarah. I need you to handle the Morrison account meeting. Something's come up with my family. The good kind of something, or the kind that requires wine and chocolate. The kind that requires a lawyer and a forensic accountant. I picked up Emma from school early. She bounced into the car, backpack slung over her shoulder, talking excitedly about her art project. "Mom, guess what? Mrs. Peterson says my painting might be good enough for the school art show." "That's wonderful, sweetheart." I looked at her in the rearview mirror. Her bright eyes, her infectious smile, the gap between her front teeth that made her look even more adorable. She was perfect. She was mine. And my family had just declared war on her. We're going to have an adventure today. How would you like to see where Mommy works?" Her face lit up. "Really? Can I sit in your big chair?" "You can sit in my big chair all you want." We drove to my office, a sleek space in downtown Denver with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the mountains. Emma ran straight to my executive chair and spun around, giggling. I sat down across from her and studied her face. "Emma, you know how much I love you, right?" "Of course, Mommy. You tell me every day. And you know that sometimes adults make mistakes? Sometimes they say things that are mean and wrong." Her expression grew serious. At 8, she was already remarkably perceptive. Did someone say something mean about me? How do you explain to a child that the family she's known her entire life has just rejected her? How do you tell her that people she calls aunt and uncle and grandparents have decided she's not good enough? Some people in our family are confused right now. They're being unkind. But I want you to remember something very important. Family isn't about who you look like. Family is about who loves you, who takes care of you, who chooses to be in your life every single day. She nodded solemnly. "Like you and me?" "Exactly like you and me. And that's never going to change." Marcus arrived an hour later with a briefcase full of documents. Emma was coloring at a small table in the corner, humming to herself. "What did you find?" I asked. He spread papers across my desk. "Your family's business structure is interesting. Walker Industries was incorporated 30 years ago, shortly after your adoption was finalized. Your father set it up as a family trust with some very specific language." "What kind of language?" "All legally recognized children and their offspring are beneficiaries." The key phrase is legally recognized. In the eyes of the law, you are Robert Walker's legally recognized daughter. Your adoption was final and complete. I felt the first spark of something that wasn't quite hope, but wasn't despair either. "What about Emma?" "Grandchildren are covered under the same language. Legally adopted grandchildren have the same rights as biological ones." A slow smile spread across my face. "So when they say Emma isn't really family, they're not just morally wrong, they're legally wrong. According to the trust documents your father signed, Emma has the same inheritance rights as your sister's children." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "But there's something else. Something bigger." He pulled out another set of documents. "I did that financial audit you asked for. Claire, did you know that Walker Industries has been hemorrhaging money for the past 5 years?" My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "Rebecca has been running the company since your father's stroke 3 years ago. She's made some questionable decisions. The company is nearly bankrupt. They're about 6 months away from insolvency. The pieces were falling into place. So this isn't really about blood or family. This is about money. They're trying to cut Emma and me out of the inheritance because there's nothing left to inherit. Worse than that, according to these documents, your father took out several loans against the company. If Walker Industries goes under, the debt doesn't disappear. It passes to the beneficiaries." I stared at him. "They're not trying to cut us out of an inheritance. They're trying to cut us out of a debt." "Exactly. They want you and Emma off the beneficiary list so you won't be responsible for the company's failures." The rage that filled me was clean and pure. They had insulted my daughter, questioned her place in the family, made her feel unwanted, not out of principle, but to protect themselves from their own incompetence. "Marcus, what are my options?" He smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. "Well, you're a beneficiary whether they like it or not. You have every legal right to examine the company books, to have a say in major decisions, to demand accountability. And if I find evidence of mismanagement, then you can petition the court to remove Rebecca as the trustee and have someone else appointed to manage the company." "Someone like me?" "Someone exactly like you." I looked over at Emma, still coloring peacefully, unaware that her future was being decided at that very moment. "How long do I have?" "The family meeting is in 4 hours. I'd say that's plenty of time to prepare a surprise they'll never forget." At 1:45 p.m., I stood outside my childhood home with Emma's hand in mine. The house looked exactly the same as it had when I was growing up. Perfectly manicured lawn, pristine white siding, not a single thing out of place. It was the kind of house that looked like a magazine cover, but never felt like a home. "Is this where you lived when you were little, Mommy?" Emma asked, staring up at the imposing colonial structure. "Yes, sweetheart. This is where I lived before I grew up and built our real home." The front door opened before we could knock. My mother, Patricia Walker, stood there looking flustered and annoyed. "Claire, I thought Rebecca told you not to bring her." "Her. Not Emma. Not her granddaughter. Just her." Like Emma was an inconvenience instead of a child. "Hello, Mom. Emma wanted to see where I grew up. I hope that's okay." My mother's mouth pursed into a thin line. "This is a family meeting, Claire. About family business. Emma is family, Mom. She's your granddaughter." "She's—" My mother struggled with the words, glancing around nervously as if the neighbors might hear. "She's complicated, Claire. You know that." Emma's grip on my hand tightened. She was picking up on the tension, the rejection in my mother's voice. I squeezed back, a silent promise that I would protect her from this. "Nothing complicated about love, Mom. But let's go inside. I believe we have some business to discuss." The living room was set up like a tribunal. Rebecca sat in Dad's old armchair, papers spread on the coffee table in front of her. My brother David was on the couch with his wife Jennifer. Uncle Frank, Dad's brother and longtime business partner, sat in a side chair. They all looked up as we entered, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "I thought I was clear," Rebecca said, her eyes fixed on Emma with obvious distaste. "This is adult business. Emma is part of this family, which makes this her business too," I said calmly, guiding Emma to a chair near the window. "Sweetheart, why don't you work on your coloring book while the grown-ups talk?" Emma nodded and pulled out her art supplies, but I could see her listening to every word. "Fine," Rebecca said, clearly irritated. "Let's get this over with. Claire, we need you to sign these papers." She pushed a thick stack of documents across the coffee table. "What are they?" "Legal documents transferring your interest in Walker Industries to the family trust. It's cleaner this way. Better for everyone." I picked up the papers and flipped through them. Transfer of beneficiary rights. Renunciation of inheritance claims. Basically, legal documents that would remove Emma and me from any future claim to Dad's legacy. "You want me to sign away my inheritance? You want to call it that, fine. But let's be honest, Claire. You were never really part of the business. Dad gave you his name. He paid for your education. He walked you down the aisle at your wedding. He did his duty. But this company, this legacy, that's for his real children." David spoke up for the first time. "It's not personal, Claire. It's just practical. The business needs to stay in the bloodline." "And what about Emma?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. "What about her future?" "She can make her own future," Rebecca said dismissively. "Like you did. You've done well for yourself. You don't need this." I looked around the room at these people I had called family for 32 years. My mother, wringing her hands and avoiding eye contact. My siblings, united in their determination to cast me out. My uncle, nodding along as if this was all perfectly reasonable. "You're asking me to sign documents that would disinherit my daughter." "We're asking you to be realistic," Rebecca snapped. "She's not Dad's granddaughter. Not really. These assets should go to his real grandchildren." His real grandchildren. I repeated the words slowly, letting them hang in the air. Emma looked up from her coloring, her young face confused by the adult cruelty she was witnessing. That's when the last of my restraint crumbled. I reached into my purse and pulled out Marcus's folder. "Before I sign anything, I think there are a few things you should know." Rebecca looked annoyed. "Claire, we don't have time for dash. Did you know that Walker Industries is bankrupt?" The room went completely silent. "What are you talking about?" David asked. "I'm talking about the fact that the company you're so desperate to keep in the bloodline is worthless. In fact, it's worse than worthless. It's drowning in debt." I pulled out the financial reports and spread them on the coffee table. 18 months from now, maybe less, Walker Industries will be forced into bankruptcy. And when that happens, all of Dad's debts become the responsibility of the beneficiaries. The color drained from Rebecca's face. "That's not. How did you? How did I find out?" "Because unlike you, I know how to read a financial statement. Because I actually understand business. Because while you've been playing CEO, you've been running Dad's legacy into the ground." Uncle Frank leaned forward, squinting at the papers. "These numbers can't be right." "They're absolutely right. Rebecca's mismanagement has destroyed everything Dad built. The contracts she signed, the investments she made, the partnerships she dissolved. It's all documented here. I looked directly at my sister. You've been trying to cut Emma and me out of the inheritance because you know there's no inheritance left. Just debt. You want us off the beneficiary list so when the company collapses, you won't have to share the liability. Rebecca's composure finally cracked. You don't understand the pressures I've been under. Dad left me in charge of a company that was already struggling. Dad left you in charge of a profitable company with a solid reputation. You destroyed it. And now you're trying to protect yourself by sacrificing the family members you never considered real anyway. My mother finally found her voice. Claire, surely we can work something out. Work something out? I stood up, Emma's hand in mine. You just told me my daughter isn't family. You told me I'm not really your child. And now that you need me to protect you from your own failures, you want to work something out? I pulled out another set of documents. Here's what we're going to work out. As a legal beneficiary of the Walker Industries Trust, I'm petitioning the court to have Rebecca removed as trustee due to gross mismanagement. You can't do that. Rebecca shot to her feet. I absolutely can. And I am. Furthermore, I'm requesting that the court appoint me as the new trustee with full authority to restructure the company. The room erupted. David started shouting about loyalty. Jennifer muttered about ungrateful adoptees. Uncle Frank was frantically shuffling through papers. My mother was crying. Through it all, Rebecca stared at me with pure hatred. You're destroying our family, she screamed. I looked around the room at their panicked, angry faces. Then I looked down at Emma, who was watching everything with wide, intelligent eyes. No, Rebecca, you destroyed our family the moment you told my daughter she didn't belong. I gathered up my papers and headed toward the door. You'll be hearing from my attorney. Oh, and Rebecca, when the court reviews your management of the company, they're going to find some very interesting discrepancies. I hope you kept good records. As we reached the front door, my mother grabbed my arm. Claire, please. We can fix this. We're family. I gently removed her hand. You made it very clear that we're not family, Mom. Emma and I are going home. To our real family. What real family? She asked desperately. Each other. We walked out into the bright afternoon sunlight. Emma was quiet until we reached the car. Mommy, are you okay? I'm perfect, baby girl. How are you? She thought for a moment. I don't think they're very nice people. No, sweetheart. They're not. Are we really not going to see them anymore? I looked back at the house where I had grown up, where I had tried for 32 years to earn a love that was always conditional, where my daughter had just been rejected by people who were supposed to protect her. We're going to be just fine without them, Em. Better than fine. Good, she said firmly. I didn't like how they talked about you. Or me. You know what? They did us a favor. They showed us who they really are. And now we know exactly what kind of people we don't want to become. 6 months later, the petition was approved. I was appointed as the new trustee of Walker Industries, with full authority to restructure the failing company. My first act was to sell off the profitable divisions to cover the debts. My second act was to establish the Emma Walker Foundation with the remaining assets, a scholarship fund for adopted children pursuing higher education. Rebecca fought me at every step, but the evidence of her mismanagement was overwhelming. The court sided with me on every motion. David tried to reconcile when he realized I was the only thing standing between his family and financial ruin, but it was too late. The trust was restructured. The beneficiaries were clearly defined. Emma's future was secure. My parents made several attempts to contact me, especially after they realized that I was now in control of what was left of the family money. The voicemails started apologetic and grew increasingly desperate as they understood the full implications of their actions. I never returned their calls. Emma and I built our own traditions. We spent Christmas in Aspen with Sarah and her family. We had Thanksgiving with Marcus and his wife. We created a chosen family of people who loved us unconditionally, not because of DNA, but because of who we were. On Emma's 9th birthday, she asked me about her biological parents for the first time. We were sitting in our backyard, watching the sunset paint the mountains purple and gold. Do you think they loved me? She asked quietly. I think they loved you enough to make sure you ended up with someone who could love you the way you deserve to be loved. Like you do. Exactly like I do. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I'm glad you're my mom. Not just because you adopted me, but because you chose me every day. And I always will, baby girl. Every single day for the rest of my life. A year after the confrontation, I received a letter from Rebecca. She was working as a manager at a retail store. Her house was in foreclosure, and she wanted to apologize. She said she understood now that family wasn't about blood. She said she missed Emma and wanted to be part of her life. I read the letter once and threw it away. Understanding came too late. Missing Emma was a consequence of her choices. Some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. Emma found the letter in the trash can and read it. "Are you going to write back?" she asked. "No, sweetheart. Some people only apologize when they want something, not because they're truly sorry." How can you tell the difference? When someone is truly sorry, they accept the consequences of their actions. They don't ask for forgiveness. They work to earn it. Emma nodded sagely. Aunt Rebecca is asking for forgiveness. Yes, she is. But she didn't earn it. No, she didn't. Emma crumpled up the letter and threw it back in the trash. Then I don't want to see her either. That night, as I tucked Emma into bed, she looked up at me with serious eyes. "Mommy, do you think I'll ever want to find my birth parents?" "You might, sweetheart. And if you do, I'll help you. But you'll still be my real mom, right? I'll always be your real mom. Nothing will ever change that." She smiled and closed her eyes. "Good. Because I like our family just the way it is." As I turned off her light and closed her door, I realized something profound. My sister had been right about one thing. Family isn't automatic. It's not guaranteed by blood or DNA or shared history. Family is a choice. It's a commitment. It's showing up, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. The people who raised me made their choice when they decided I wasn't good enough, when they decided Emma wasn't worthy. They chose their pride, their prejudice, their greed over love. Emma and I made our choice too. We chose each other. We chose the people who chose us back. We chose love over blood, commitment over convenience, loyalty over biology. In the end, we didn't lose a family. We discovered what family really means. And we built something beautiful, something strong, something real. The Walkers had rejected us, but we didn't need their name or their approval or their conditional love. We were our own family now, and that was more than enough.